Welcome to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point, presented by BetMGM.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Extra Point here. Happy holidays to you. You got a little early Christmas gift from the Steelers today, although it cost you some heart palpitations along the way. Bob Pompeani here with Matt Williamson from Steelers Nation Radio, former NFL and college scout. He knows a lot about the game. Matt, just a quick take. We have plenty of interviews coming up and a lot of phone calls a little bit later, but the Steelers still have issues, but they did show their collective heart, I thought, as this game went on to win it against a very physical team.
Without question. And the Titans have their issues as well, but they hung around, and this team does have heart. There's no question about that.
They certainly do. They showed it. The Steelers were down 13-3 at halftime. We have clock management issues. I know we're going to get into that because some of the stuff that happened at the end of the first half was a little bothersome, but they took advantage of 3 Tennessee giveaways, 3 turnovers on 10 snaps, and they turned those into field goals. They didn't get a dagger and go for touchdowns, but bottom line is they outscored them 16-zip in the second half to come back and win, and they're kind of like the comeback kids at this point, in the fourth quarter especially.
I'm sure we're going to be a little hard on Coach Tomlin for the clock management and whatnot, but he does a really good job of keeping them in the game, mucking it up almost like a hockey team, that in the end you're still in it. So there's something to be said for that.
There certainly is, and both teams have had their share of injuries. We have Mike Tomlin coming up. We have player interviews coming up. Later your calls, so stick around. We're just getting started here on KDKA. It is the Extra Point, and look at that score, 19-13, 16 second half points. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point, presented by BetMGM.
Welcome back to a coverage of a Steeler come-from-behind win. We've been saying that a lot when they win games. Down early in this game, not much offense at all. Even in the fourth quarter, not much offense, but they took advantage of the defense causing turnovers, and they turned them into 3 Chris Boswell field goals to win 19-13. Your final score to get to 7-6-1 in what is the mosh pit of the AFC playoff chase. Matt Williamson from Steelers Nation Radio here, and there are a lot of things we can start with. I want to start, first of all, with the tackle by Hayden at the end. That was the biggest play, as it turns out. It was, because and what I don't understand how officials cannot spot that properly. It's very clear.
Seemed pretty cut and dry to me. Yeah. It was a great play by Hayden. Great to have him back. I think the Steelers kind of adjusted throughout the game, too, to realize these receivers for the Titans are not that explosive or dangerous. Let's try to take away the run a little bit more as the game goes on. Trust guys like Hayden throughout the course of the game, and start to pay off. But that was a great play.
Yeah, and quite frankly, if you want to analyze this, I think properly, you'd say the defense and Boswell bailed out the offense, because the offense really didn't do all that much, even when they had those turnovers. They turned them into points. Yes, they were all field goals, but they had an opportunity to do more than that. And on 2 of those 3 drives, they went backwards. They actually retreated. And so Tennessee probably figured, well, we have an opportunity here, and if it wasn't for that tackle at the end, who knows? That could have saved their opportunity to get into the playoffs, if there is one, over the next 3 games. All right, we'll go back to the beginning of this game, because right at the end of the first half, you and I were both a little miffed by some of the time clock management by head coach Mike Tomlin. The Titans were in this 19-play, 10-minute, almost 11-minute drive, and time was winding down in the first half. The Steelers had all 3 timeouts. Why not call them as they were getting closer to the goal line to preserve some time for your offense? They eventually got a 56-yard field goal off, but it could have been much worse or much better than that, a shorter field goal or even a touchdown.
Absolutely, and this isn't even hindsight talking. I mean, you can kind of do the math as you're going, that they probably would have had about a minute and a half on that final drive, would have handled it much differently. At a minimum, to your point, you have probably a shorter field goal try. You asked enough out of Boz in this game to begin with, let alone that. It boggles my mind a little bit. I mean, this is a recurring theme with this football team of not using your timeouts and clock management properly.
Well, the one thing they did do properly at the end of a drive was score a touchdown on a quarterback sneak. 2 tries by Ben Roethlisberger, which led to I forget, I saw on Twitter, I don't know if it was Alex Gazor, he said it was a religious experience. He went down into the tunnel, and you could tell he was doing something in there. But he did go with the 2 quarterback sneaks, and that's the right call there. They've had so much trouble, right, in those situations.
Without question.
Play calling, so.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think that was in the equation. I thought just give it to Najee 4 times, pound away at this thing, don't get cute. The numbers tell you that's the way to go, but it was great to see Ben get in.
Yeah, I thought at one point they were going to get in one of those kind of wild jets, who knows.
Right.
But once the simplest way is just go ahead and pound it. They've missed out on opportunities early in the season for not doing that. There also was a record today by T.J. Watt defensively. And again, I think the defense really gave the offense an opportunity to win a game. But T.J. Watt set an all-time franchise record for sacks in one season. 17 now, or maybe more than that. I forget what happened at the end of the game, but boy, he has been a complete disturber out there.
It's amazing on a per snap basis how effective he is too. Like you compare him to Myles Garrett and some of these other great pass rushers, they're getting more and more opportunities than TJ too. He's been unbelievable.
We got to go to Mike Tomlin right now. He is at the podium. Let's go there live.
Take any of it for granted. It is the National Football League. We'll be ready next week. From the injury standpoint, Wormley had a groin, wasn't able to continue. Pat is in the concussion protocol. We'll see where that leads us. Questions?
Okay, please raise your hand if you have a question for Coach. We'll go right down the line. Jerry, go ahead.
Mike, the turnovers, you took the ball away 4 times, and even though you no touchdowns, but you at least scored 4 times off those. How significant was it to take advantage of those when you got them?
You know, field positioning in a game like that is real. They won the battle of field position in the first half, primarily because of our punt team and ineffectiveness of our punt team. We won it in the second half because of the turnover game, and really it's probably the difference in the game. And so the turnover game was significant.
Brooke Breyer.
Yeah, Mike, it looked like after one of those late hits on Ben that you talked with the officials. Were you unhappy with the way that they were officiating? It looked like he took some extra contact after the whistle.
I was.
Tim Benz.
Mike, can you talk about some of the contributions you got from Tosca and Taco today?
You know, I'm appreciative of their efforts. We had some guys available to us that were working their way back from injury, TJ and Alex, Joe Hayden, Robert Spillane, but none of those guys were going to be able to play a 60-minute game, and so we rotated a lot of people. So we got efforts from guys like the guys you mentioned, and also Witherspoon and some others were able to bridge the gap for us, and it was very necessary.
Mike Pursuta.
Mike, what did you see from your run defense relative to what you saw in Minnesota? And what's the expectation or the reality that can get better at this point of the year?
I still think we had some lapses in gap control, but the lapses in gap control were 6- and 7-yard runs as opposed to some of those in Minnesota. So I don't know that we were any better, to be honest with you, from a gap control standpoint. We just minimized some of the explosion plays when they did break. And you got to tip your cap to Minka. I don't know how many tackles he had, but as a middle of the field player, there were several times where I thought his tackling was big and covered up some lack of gap integrity.
Chris Carter.
Mike, in addition to your run defense, your pass defense was able to take away a lot of different parts of the field from Ryan Tannehill. You talked about his arm being a factor in this game. How did you feel about your secondary's performance to try and neutralize what the Titans do?
I was appreciative of our performance. They were working short in some of their perimeter weapons, with 11 and then 2 going down in game. And so, to be honest with you, that was expected and needed. We had to dominate that component of the game, given the people that were available to both sides.
Mark Caboli.
Mike, I wonder about the decision at the end of the first half of not calling a timeout and basically running out of time there at the end for Boswell.
I was more concerned with stopping them than I was with creating a drive opportunity for us. I wanted them to make decisions on going from second down to third down on time unless they burned one of their timeouts. They chose not to, and so the clock ran. We can get excited about subsequent drives, but you got to get the stop first, and I didn't take that for granted.
Alan Saunders.
Mike, how frustrating is it to only be able to come away with field goals when you get those sudden change opportunities? And where did you feel like your offense was struggling in those chances?
You know, I thought our struggles, particularly in the first half, were on possession downs, but that struggle was teed up by penalties. Pre-snap penalties, false starts, and so forth. We weren't able to gain any type of cohesion because we were losing possession downs. I think we were 0 for 6. Not overly frustrated with settling for field goals in the turnover game because largely globally we had the momentum. My issues were with the possession down football in the first half, particularly teed up by pre-snap penalties that put us behind the chains.
John Lydon.
Yeah, Mike, I know it was not singularly just Joe Hayden, but what can you say about what his presence meant today and obviously coming up with probably one of the biggest plays of the game?
It's not just his playmaking. It's the presence that he brings. He's got leadership skills. He's got great experience. He smiles in the face of adversity. That's contagious. There was some tangible and intangible quality to his presence today.
Will Graves.
Mike, you talked about the pre-snap stuff. I mean, we're in week 14 here. Why does this stuff keep happening?
Because we got issues.
Well, how do you fix them?
We come to work on tomorrow, and we will.
Anybody else? Raise your hand. John Leidick, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, Mike, obviously there's still a path. You guys still have 3 games left, but taking a look, what can a win like this do? I know Keith Butler mentioned on, what was that, Thursday, just about the runs, maybe a win like this can help set the path forward for.
We won this one. We're getting singularly focused for the next one. We're not, diagnosing big pictures. No need to. We take care of business in stadium. We don't have to look around. We got 3 AFC games left, 2 of which are AFC North games. And so all we need to do is focus on the stadiums that we're in. That's the message.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
So 4 turnovers today.
All right. That's Mike Tomlin. Again, they're back to Zoom this week. The NFL and the Steelers decided to do that. So we don't have people there in person. That's the Zoom hookup. We will hear from Joe Schobert coming up, and he was one of the heroes of this game. Interesting. Mike Tomlin pretty much talked about pre-snap penalties, and also I would include the run integrity defensively. Oh, yeah. I mean, they're getting gouged. They still got gouged today, he said, basically because we have issues.
They do.
They do.
They have talent issues. They have gap discipline issues. I'm glad somebody mentioned Minkah Fitzpatrick. I mean, he saves some long runs. And with all respect to Foreman and these set of backs, they're not Dalvin Cook. That's part of the difference as well. Once they get in the open field, they're not as dangerous. But they have issues. There's no question.
Well, the thing about their team is that that is their commitment. They run the ball regardless if there's no Derrick Henry. It doesn't matter. They're still going to do it, and the Steelers still have issues to take care of. We're going to hear from Joe Schobert. We have other interviews on the way, and eventually we'll be taking some of your calls here on the Steelers, who get to 7-6-1 following a 16-point second half, which takes a win away from Tennessee. 19-13 your final score. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point, presented by BetMGM.
Along with Matt Williamson, I'm Bob Pompeani. TJ Watt with his new haircut on display right now, and after he set the record for sacks in a season. Let's go there now.
A lot of those really smart veteran plays, and a lot of that stuff rubs off on other guys as well. So really happy to have him back.
Mark Cavoli.
Hey, TJ, you guys are really stacking the box trying to stop them to run. You surprised they didn't try to throw a little bit more than they did? I think it was only a handful of times, really.
No, I mean, that's what they do. And I feel like if teams want to try to throw the ball, they also know what the problems they're going to get from us.
Christopher Carter.
TJ, you guys limited Tannehill to like 153 yards to the air, 18 yards on the ground. What went to you guys' game plan to try to keep him out of rhythm and out of flow to really hurt you guys?
I think we were just more focused on stopping the run this week, knowing they were going to stick to it, and then the play pass. I think you got to credit the guys in the back end for sticking with the play pass, not getting too caught up in the run action and stuff like that, and just being able to continue to make pressure and trying to keep him in the pocket as best as we could, because we knew that he liked to escape specifically through the middle of the defensive front.
Chris Adamski.
TJ, Taco and Tuska both had splash plays of some sort during the game. Is that good to see from them? Have you seen growth from them, and kind of good to see them be able to make big contributions like that?
Yeah, of course. I know both those guys would love to have more reps. They're very selfless guys. Really happy to have them in our room, and they make the most out of all the reps that they get. And they're continuing to get better, grow and get better. And Taco on the tip pass with Joe intercepted, it was huge. And then Derek, I think that he said that was his first sack. So we got to find a way to get that football to him, because that was a heck of a strip sack by him. And like I said, it's just such a fun group in our room, and we're just going to continue to learn from each other. We have so much experience in there, and try to grow.
Bo Marchianti.
that final play from the press box, it looked very evident that they were short of the line of game. From your perspective on the field, was it that evident to you?
Oh, I was just trying to catch my breath, to be honest with you, and looked up at the jumbotron and pretty much knew that it was short. And if it didn't get called on the field, it was going to get reviewed anyways.
And we'll start with Anthony Jaskolski.
Hey, TJ, 4 turnovers today. That's the most since November last year. Do you attribute a lot of that to the pressure you were able to get on Tannehill today? And do you just breathe a sigh of relief when you're finally back in that kind of mojo, forcing those turnovers again?
It all goes hand in hand. I think anytime we can get splash plays as a defense, it's huge. And like you said, this is a selfless group. We don't really care who's making the plays. We know that we're capable of making the splash, whether we're punching footballs out, fumbles, tipping passes, intercepting balls, all that stuff. That's what you love to do as a defense. That's the identity that we want to have. And like I said, they come in bunches, and hopefully we can continue to bring that splash and put our offense in great situations as we hit this stretch.
All right, we will sneak in. Sorry, 2 more. We'll go to Aditi.
All right, T.J. Watt right there after he comes away with the all-time sack record, eclipsing that of James Harrison, and this defense did make plays. We talked about the 4 turnovers. Anytime you do that, you're going to give your offense a chance. Oh, yeah. They got guys like Schobert making a play. Taco Sunday here, a tip pass that led to Schobert's interception. And some of them, quite frankly, were Tennessee miscues, just self-inflicted.
Absolutely.
But bottom line is they got them and they turned them into points.
Yeah, and in a way this year, they've been kind of on the short end of that, especially because this is such a good pass rushing team. They've generated a lot of turnovers, and this game kind of came back to the mean in a positive way, and it's been kind of bound to happen. And unfortunately, it hasn't been there to this point like we expect.
Joe Hayden not only made that nice tackle at the end, but he also recovered a fumble today. So, we talk about guys who are out, and sometimes you don't mention him as much as others. We talk about Watt, we talk about Tuitt not being there, if Heyward gets injured, but Joe Hayden has been missed, and his presence was definitely noticed today.
Yeah, without question, and I'm really excited to watch the All-22, assuming they put him on an island a lot. Against lesser receivers, you can trust those veterans. They're not going to make mental errors. They reflect well on everyone else on the field. That certainly showed up today.
All right, so one thing that also bothered me, besides the clock management issues at the end of the first half, at least you heard Tomlin's explanation. I understand that, but I still would have left time for my offense, given the fact that you knew this was going to be a tight game all the way through. Presley Harvin, he was a 7th-round pick. He was the only punter drafted in this draft. Matt, you're a guy who's made a living with scouting in the NFL and college level. How does a guy go from the Ray Guy Award winner to these kind of punts?
It's a little baffling, to be honest with you, because a lot of positions, it takes a while to learn the speed of the NFL. Technique's more important. Punting, the ball comes back to you, you drop it and you punt it. And it's way too inconsistent.
Yeah, it has to be better. Joe Hayden was very good today. He's talking right now. Let's go over and hear from number 23.
So when my receiver ran in, I thought he was setting a pick play for the inside receiver to run a wheel route. So I was expecting him to throw the ball, but I had my heels on the first down marker, so I was just sliding inside. And then when he threw it to him, I just knew if I tackled him and made him go backwards instead of forwards, there was no way he was going to be able to get the first down.
Nick Farabaugh.
Hey, Joe, you guys had a few big plays in the secondary today, but Minka was kind of the guy making the big plays on the back end. I think it's something like 14, 15 tackles in the run game. What does Minka bring to the team? Not just his splash play and his play free safety, but as a tackler and as a run defender to really help you guys as that last safety valve?
It's the safety valve, man. He plays that free safety as best as they come. He's the last line of defense, and we just feel very, very comfortable with, sometimes they ended up breaking through there, wide open, and Minka just got to make sure he has a top on it for the defensive backs, secondary, and for the running game. So, he's taking that role on very, very well, making sure that he loves tackling, making sure that he gets the ball on the ground, and he prides himself in it. So I'm just super happy that we got him back there, and he's handling business.
Aditi Kinkabala.
Aditi?
Yes.
Hey, Joe. Okay, thank you. Sorry. That last play, did you know he was 100% short, or were you watching the video board? Were you trying to get a sense?
I knew he was short the whole time. I feel like we got a bad spot. Because I had him short of the block. He had to get the guard past him. So I thought we're out.
Thank you.
All right, that's Joe Hayden talking about that spot, which again was clear to anyone who saw it, except the officials, that it was going to be short. In fact, I was surprised when that thing came out to measure it. It was as close as it was.
Oh, I thought it was that blatant and that obvious, from watching on TV. I mean, I wasn't on the field,
Right.
But yeah, I agree with you.
And it's one of those things that if that is the other way, all of a sudden now they get a new set of downs and anything can happen at that point. But the Steelers stay alive in this race by winning to get to 7-6-1. Lamar Jackson is not playing today for the Ravens. They have a tough assignment. Their schedule's not easy. It's going to go right down the wire. We'll talk more about this game and look a little bit ahead as well. Plus, Ben Roethlisberger sound coming up right here live as we continue on KDKA TV.
Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point, presented by BetMGM.
Ben Roethlisberger goes over 63,000 yards. He moves ahead of Phillip Rivers on the all-time NFL yardage list. He's speaking right now.
Give them credit. They're a good defense. Whether we had a penalty, whether we had a negative rush, whatever it was, we couldn't put the points on the board through a touchdown, and that's very frustrating. And I just kept the ball. There's no real reason. I just had it. One of their guys was talking a lot of trash, so I asked him if he wanted the ball.
Mark Caboli.
Hey, Ben, I wonder if you could just take us through that, the throw you threw to Ray in the end zone, third down. It seems like you went pretty quick on that play. If you just take us through why that play, why that decision?
I think it was it the towards the open end, like that play?
Yeah, so it was like a 3rd and 7, and you went pretty quick, I think.
We jumped the ball quick with an RPO. They had too many guys in the box, so you kind of have to pick a throw. And Ray had press, and he's a quick little jittery bug type receiver that you expect it can win. And gave him a chance. I thought he did a great job. He kind of got walled off. I was kind of expecting or hoping for a flag, but you go there because it's either him or probably Deontay on the other side because I think Chase was in the game or whatever is coming across. But those are kind of your two options, and I wanted to give him a chance to make a play. And like I said, I thought he was interfered with, but it is what it is.
Haden.
Ben, you said earlier this season that you called a keeper basically for yourself. What happened on these two down there, and what was it like coming up from the bottom of that pile there?
The two sneaks, it's been a while. They didn't feel real good. My neck's going to be a little sore for sure. But glad we could get in on the second one, and anyway we can help the team.
Joe Rudder.
Yeah, Ben. Despite the offensive struggles, what does it mean to be able to walk away with the win in a game like this?
Well, it's huge. We'll take at this point in the season. We'll take them any way we can get them. A lot of props to our defense, obviously stepping up, getting us chances. We didn't do enough on offense, but like I said, at this point in the year, you'll take a win any way you can get it.
Noah Strackman.
Hey, Ben, on the broadcast, it showed you taking a minute to yourself, I think in the second half on the steps of the tunnel. Can you just take us through what was going on there?
Yeah, I thought I broke the all-time Hines rushing record, so I was just trying to take a moment to myself.
Jim Colony.
Well, Ben, congratulations on that record. I didn't really realize that was one of them.
Thanks,
this isn't quite like the Ravens game, but it was very similar where I know you like to have the ball in your hands to win a game, but you're kind of getting used to watching your defense come up for you at the end.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously want the ball. You want to have a chance. But I believe in our defense, and what a great play by Joe and the rest of the guys. And so it's fun. I mean, to get a win any way you can get it, we'll take it. But like I said, we'll be frustrated on this one, not scoring a touchdown on the last drive when we had a chance.
Brooke Pryor.
Yeah, Ben, sorry, you've been asked this, but with that rushing touchdown, did you hold on to the ball, or are you going to do anything special with it?
I don't have it, so I just took it. Like I said, I tried to offer it to one of the defensive guys.
Mike Pursuta.
Hey, Ben, congratulations on being officially better than Phillip Rivers in passing yards. When you watch your defense, they're struggling to stop the run. Do you have something in the back of your mind that says it's going to take 25, 30 points the rest of the way to?
No, I mean, we don't go into it saying that we've got to put X amount of points on the board or this, that, and the other. We always want to, we'll take one more point than the other team. But we go against our defense. We know what they are. I think I don't want to speak for them, but I'm sure they were a little fired up after last week and some of the stuff. So they were coming out to make a statement. I thought they did. I mean, I don't know how many turnovers it was, but it was a lot. Unfortunately, we didn't capitalize like we should have to help them. But it's fun watching that defense when they're flying around making plays like that. We have all the faith in the world in them.
Alan Saunders.
All right, that's Ben Roethlisberger after the game. He got hit hard a few times today. I thought the one call was a right call. I didn't understand why Tony Romo was questioning whether or not the Tennessee player, he dove right for his ankles. That was a Tom Brady when he got injured, and Kimo von Oelhoffen.
It was obvious to me. I mean, there was a pause between when the lineman let him go, dove towards Ben, came in low. That's like the definition of the rule.
All right, let's talk about Ben Roethlisberger. We have the updated numbers now after his 148 yards today. Certainly not the kind of numbers Ben wanted today, but it did move him into the top 5. So Tom Brady's still going. It's amazing. 83,000 plus, then Breeze, then Manning, Favre. He's not going to get there, but he'll end up top 5 ahead of Phillip Rivers. That's a pretty amazing career.
It's an absolutely amazing career. And first ballot Hall of Famer all day long. Remarkable. Maybe he can put a little bow on it here at the end. I think he's going to end up 5th when it's all said and done. And looking at Brady's is just Gretzky-like numbers. It's crazy.
It really is. And it's still going, by the way. So we'll talk about final stats because they don't look all that attractive, quite frankly. And if you had to look at them, you probably would have thought the Steelers lost today. That and more coming up. And then we'll get to some of your calls right here on a special edition of the Hourly Contracting Nightly Sports Call Steelers edition following a 19-13 win, outscoring the Tennessee Titans 16-zip in the second half. We're back in a flash.
Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point, presented by BetMGM.
Bob Pompeani, Matt Williamson back with you. Time to check out the JP Roofing final stats. And again, Matt, if you took the turnovers away from this, look at the other side of it. This looks like a losing performance.
Oh, big time. And that's what the first half exactly was. I mean, this kind of looks like the first half in Minnesota. Just total ball control. Time of possession's a real issue with this team right now. And what's worrisome is Tennessee, really, since Derrick Henry's been hurt, is about the least explosive offense in the entire league. I mean, they can only play one way, and you allowed them to for much of this game.
Yeah, less than 200 yards of offense. And if you think about it, 40 of those yards came at the end of the first half. Even though they didn't use the timeouts to conserve the clock, they still threw the ball, and Tennessee was going to give them everything they wanted
Just
in
keep
that
them
situation.
Bounds. That's all they care about.
So really, right? Najee Harris had 12 carries, 18 yards. That's not good enough. So they still have a lot of problems. And going next week into Kansas City, you would think you're going to need to have a lot more points because Kansas City is going to score on this defense.
This style of game isn't going to fly in Kansas City. No. I mean, I'm very confident about that. You probably aren't going to win the turnover battle by 4. Your problems all start at the line of scrimmage, though. I mean, if you can't move bodies in the run game and you have to get away from it, it's a problem. And
so what do you do there, Matt? Because they only have so many guys. And Zach Banner can't get in because, as Mike Tomlin said, he's tackle only, and they're not going to put him in there. Is it Hassenauer? Is he ready to come back? I mean, Joe Haig, they have these same guys, but I don't know what the direct answer is to try to change things.
I know, and there isn't a great one. I mean, there's not great players on the bench. I think Hassenauer's reliable, and that goes a long way. Green didn't have snap issues today, but he gets bullied by big, strong people. But Hassenauer's not a power player either. Leglue looks like a backup to me, and maybe a nice find, but not a starter.
Yeah, and despite all of that, they're 7-6-1. Joe Schobert had a lot to do with that because he made an interception after a tip pass by Taco Charlton. Here's Joe Schobert after the game.
Yeah, for sure. Once I think the turnover, we get some points on the board and we start getting turnovers on, it might have been consecutive drives on defense. You could really feel the overall just momentum in the whole stadium, the atmosphere change, and it was huge for us when we kept riding that wave right to the end.
Let's go to Jeff Bathorn. Jeff.
Joe, can you take us through the interception, if you would, please?
Yeah, I mean, I was up in the A-gap blitzing. And they blocked down on me with offensive lineman. Taco came off the edge, and I just remember seeing him jump real high, tipping the ball. And I tried to high point it and get to it, turn. And then I started looking for somebody to pitch it to because I wanted a fast guy to run it, and I was going to lead block him. But I only saw a Tennessee guy back there, so I had to turn back around and try to get what I could.
Big play for Joe Schobert right there. Cam Heyward has had an unbelievable season. He's also speaking right now as we go back to the Zoom over at Steeler headquarters.
Too much in the run game. But, we kept it in reach. Offense got a touchdown, got it to 10-13, and then, we got some big turnovers in their side of the field, really shortened the field, and we were able to get the W because of it.
Nick Farabaugh, Pittsburgh Sports Now.
Cam, can you talk about what the impact Joe has when he's here on this defense? He talked about how the communication's better when he's in there, but what does Joe bring that's different when he's here than when he's not in here?
Joe's a big communicator. He's a seasoned vet that's seen a lot of football. Understands formations, understands what teams are trying to do to us. That comes with a lot of guys that have played this game. You're not only just, playing checkers where, we line it up and just trying to diagnose the run. Already know what's going to happen and where you need to fill. A lot of those passes were very quick. And, you just had to, tackle and line up again. And look at that last play. That's what Joe did.
Anthony Jaskowski, Pittsburgh Sports Express.
Hi, Cam. Ben talked about this being somewhat of a playoff atmosphere. Is that how it is in the entire locker room? Is that how it feels right now? It's just a do or die mentality right now, considering where you're at in the standings and how important the game is.
I just think, we run down the list. Every game from here on out is a playoff game. Backs against the wall. We put ourselves in this situation, but we got to be ready for it. It's not going to be perfect football, but it's going to be playoff football. And everything's going to count a little bit different. Sorry, Angela was off kilter.
Cam, is this an example of the game that splash plays can win it? Like you said, it wasn't perfect to run defense and the offense, whatever, but that the splash plays is really, it's pretty cut and dry will win you the game.
Yeah, splash plays are always an equalizer. How many turnovers did we get? 4? They came at crucial times and got us back in the game, gave us the lead. We've been, saying the dam's going to break, and you just got to keep practicing. And, the practicing and the drills we do are starting to pay off.
Cam Heyward following the game. Again, he has a big presence on that defensive line, given all the injuries we've seen around. There's no Alu, there's no Tuitt. There are a lot of young guys. That puts a lot of pressure on him, and he's responded.
Oh, it's been Cam Heyward and the Pips there. I mean, really, all year long. And he's had a tremendous year. Every blocking scheme starts with doubling him. I mean, the punishment he's taken for the team, doing the dirty work, is remarkable.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take a look around the AFC, which, again, is up in the air in so many different ways. Plus, Rich Welsh will join us. He was covering that post game, and we'll get a vibe of the Steelers and what they think of from Rich when we come back. You're watching a special edition of The Extra Point right here on KDKA TV.
Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point, presented by BetMGM.
Along with Matt Williamson from Steelers Nation Radio, Bob Pompeani here as we take a look at the road ahead, presented to you by your Neighborhood Ford Store. So this is not going to be easy, but none of the teams in the AFC North, Matt, have it easy. This game against Kansas City is going to be a tough one. But if they somehow could win the final 2 after that, assuming they lose to KC, is 9-7-1, would it be good enough?
I think so. However, I mean, the Bills, the Colts, the Chargers, I mean, they could be the 3 wildcard teams. I'm not even certain that the North's going to get 2 teams in at this point. They might have to win the division. So to your point, beating the Browns and the Ravens would go a really long way because you're issuing losses to your, who you're doing battle with.
Head to head.
You got to root against the Bengals.
Exactly. They're involved in the game with the Broncos today, and they have an early 3-0 lead. And the Ravens, without Lamar Jackson, are taking on the Packers. They had an early lead, but Green Bay obviously is one of the elite teams in the NFC. Let's bring in Rich Welsh, my colleague over at Heinz Field. And Rich, you were in there talking to some of those guys. What's the feeling after this one? Because still sloppy at times defensively, very sloppy offensively, yet they got the win.
Yeah, these guys know that they didn't play well, but you can sense the excitement. These guys are still in it. They might be down, but they're not out of it after today's win. Now, look, the most important stat, right, is the win, but that stat covered up a lot of bad stats. I mean, when you look at time of possession, you look at third down efficiency, yards on offense. All those stats would be losers in every other game unless they had 4 turnovers. Now, the 4 turnovers are great, but the offense couldn't do anything with it. 12 points. You would expect the offense to score 1 or 2 touchdowns on 4 turnovers, especially giving the offense good field position, but they were unable to do that. But like I said, these guys are excited. You could sense the joy that they're still in it. They're still in it here with 3 games left. They know they're going to have to win at least 2 of these last 3 games, maybe 3 to have a shot at the playoffs, but at least they have the opportunity to get it. They're not over yet. And like I said, the best stat that you can look at is the win, and they got the win 19-13 here against a team that's going to be in the playoffs well.
Yeah, they are, but without 2 of their top offensive playmakers in Brown and Derrick Henry, they still did what they had to do. They had the better numbers in the ground game. It's got to be concerning, I think, Rich, also when you look at the Steelers' ground game. There's just not a lot of openings for Najee Harris. What he does get, he gets on his own, it seems, and that's got to be something that gets better. We talk a lot about gap control on run defense, but they got to open some holes themselves on run offense.
Yeah, it's a young offensive line, and there's not a lot of room out there for Najee Harris. 18 yards today. I think the team totaled 35 yards. That's not going to get the job done. They got to figure some things out on offense. They got to get a spark. They got to get into some kind of rhythm, momentum on offense, and they really didn't do that today. It was a defense that had the fourth quarter, second half magic, unlike the last couple weeks. But, you know, how about let's switch it over to defense a little bit. And Mike Tomlin addressed, you know, the run defense. They were still giving up those plays, but today it was only 6 or 7 yards instead of 20, 30, or 40. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, he gave him a lot of credit because he was the guy in the back end making those huge tackles that could have turned into bigger plays. So I think there's still, like I said, the wind covered up a lot here today, but there's still some issues moving forward. The Steelers might have to make these big splash plays in order to win moving forward, but they still have some problems on run defense and on running the ball.
All right, Rich, thanks. Appreciate the analysis over there at Heinz Field where they're sweeping you out of the picture. Watch out behind you now. You got those big machines. Matt, a final word to you on this one because, you know, if you look at this, I think the right way is this defense came up with big plays that turned this game into something different. What we did see at the end offensively was something interesting because Chase Claypool had only 1 catch in this game.
Yeah.
McLeod was on the field a lot. So was James Washington ahead of Claypool. Did you get that feeling, or it was difficult to, you know, to watch?
It was a little difficult to decipher, and throughout the season, I've been kind of critical. Too much McLeod on offense. Mm-hmm. And I'm still in that camp, but they need somebody else to step up, and Claypool hasn't been especially mature or reliable. Washington's role seems to be growing a little bit as a result. They could certainly use a juju, though.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be as big a loss as it is, but it has been.
For a lot of different reasons.
It has been.
You know, James Washington, even though he made some plays, he also fumbled and got a break because there was a penalty against Tennessee on that play. All right, Matt, thanks very much. Thank you for filling in for Chris Hope.
That was a blast, thanks.
Yeah, it was very good. And you can check him out on Steelers Nation Radio. Does a great job scouting a lot of the teams in both the NFL and college game. When we come back, Andrew Filipponi of 93.7 The Fan is going to join me. We'll take some of your calls here up until 6 o'clock. So call us at 412-575-2600. You can also tweet at KDPomp at The Pony Express. We're back with a special edition of the Sports Call right here live on KDKA TV.